there. I do think the chainsaw was a great idea, but it ran out of gas. So it's very difficult to throw a chainsaw at somebody that size and do any damage.
Scream.
That obviously doesn't work.
It worked for me.
Yeah, but you're dead and I wasn't.
What did you say, girl?
But you have a better ass.
Let's hear about that.
I can run.
Okay, who else has a question? Somebody raise your hand. Over here.
Question for Melanie. The ending where Pam goes into the room, Tommy's wearing Roy's mask. They never, when it went to Jason 6, we never saw Pam or Reggie again, but what do you think happened to them?
I think we went on to better movies.
Boo.
Tell them like it is, Melanie. It's okay.
Who else has a question? Stacy in the back. Stacy, let's hear your question. Stand up.
Well, Stacy always thought that the key to defeating Jason was the fact that Jason hadn't been laid and harbored a lot of anger. And that could have worked. I mean, nobody ever tried that technique. I think that was maybe what Ted was alluding to before, but thanks for the question, Stace.
That's actually the premise of the whole thing. What's your name? Nick. That's a good question. He's asking what it was like to film my scenes when it was cold at night. We actually filmed in December, and it had snowed a couple days before, and we were delayed by a couple things that happened physically with the cast members, and we were filming sequentially, and so we had to cut to the chase and do the night swimming scene. So they brought in a DC-9 engine with its own generator to drive me off, because I had to block the scene, rehearse the scene, block the scene, and then run the scene 3 times. And I really needed that because it was Spectacle Lake in Connecticut and it was bloody cold. They actually closed down the set, meaning they got everybody out of there that wasn't necessary to the set, and I said, "Where is everybody? I'm cold." And we brought back the cast in just so that I could feel comfortable. But I went in that lake probably about 6 or 8 times. Yeah, it was cold. Yeah, good question. But thank God for that DC-9 engine.
I have a question basically for the group on stage individually. At what point was it in your life that you knew that acting or being a stunt person was what you wanted to do? What drew you to the career? Because most people have safe 9-to-5 jobs where there's a steady income coming in every week, and I know you guys live a completely different life than that. You're 1 minute you're on a set, and then as soon as the movie's done shooting, you're an unemployed actor. Which would terrify most 9-to-5 people. And I was just wondering what it was that, how did you know, or what was it that made you do what 90% of the other people in the world won't even think of doing?
Well, I was actually going to college up in Reno, studying cartography, a geography major, and I came down to LA to visit some friends and went to Universal Studios and saw the stunt show. and something clicked in my brain, said that's what I want to do, because I had been entertaining my friends for years doing crazy shit. And I thought, you know, that's a career where you do that same stuff and you get paid very well for it. So I decided to try and get into the business, and if you know nobody in the stunt business, it's incredibly difficult to break in, and I didn't know a soul. So it took forever to really meet people and get to start working, but I just decided at that time that that's what I wanted to do, no matter how long it took. So, and it did take a while.
Yeah, he's right. It takes a long time if you don't know anybody in the business just to find out how to get going. But I was a dancer in New York, singer-dancer, very young. I started at 6 years old. And I would be in the chorus of shows and see the lead characters and think maybe one day they'll pull me out of the chorus and I'll get into something. So I did the show Grease, and I got pulled out of the chorus to understudy the role of Patty Simcox, which was the cheerleader role, if anyone's seen that. And that was the beginning of it. And then I got commercials, and in most commercials, you're playing a character. Even if you're selling deodorant or something, you have to become a character to sell the item. So that's really what got me into it.
I don't know, I had a really great childhood, so I always decided I wanted to play for a living when I grew up. Actually, I was working with the Forest Service while I was in college, and I was what was called a smoke jumper. I was working in Montana fighting forest fires, and they were doing an episode of a show called Wild Kingdom, Lucha Global's Wild Kingdom, and they used us in the episode to fight this fire and save a wild buffalo herd. And I'm from the Los Angeles area, so after I did that show, I went back to Hollywood, and I thought, well, maybe I'll stick this out a little bit, see what it's like. And I went and saw the stunt guys at Universal and asked them how you get started, and they directed me towards a school. And as soon as I walked to the school and met some people, I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And I remember after finishing college, it was no question. I just pursued being a stuntman. It didn't matter whether we were going to work every day or it'd be off or on. It just what I wanted to do, and I did it.
Well, I was in the Marine Corps, and I was in the Naval Hospital in San Diego, and John Wayne was making a movie called Sands of Iwo Jima, and the production manager came down and was looking for 2 people to be technical advisors on the show. I happened to be one of the walking wounded, and another gentleman, and we went up and worked on the show for about 4 days. I had a very, very small amount of stuff that we told them that was right or wrong, and that's when I met Wayne, and I did see the stuntmen working, and I felt that if and when the time came that I was healed up enough that I could do it, I'd like to try. I went on home, and later I had a call from a major's wife who was in the hospital with me, and he was not doing too well, and she said, if you want to see him, you better get back. I came back to California, and he had passed away. But I went on to the back jack office and saw Wayne again, and I was invited out to watch him shoot a movie, and that's when I made the decision that I would never be an actor, because I don't have the heart for it, but I would like to be a stuntman, and that was my beginning.